Previously on Higurashi wa Ch.7. It's going to happen today. June 22nd. The day I die.
おはようなのです。
What's good about this morning exactly?
おはようございますですわよ、リカ。
Good morning, Satoko.
周りは勝手に納得して高野の死体に間違いないって繰り返すんですが、それで直接行って見てこようと思います。死体が高野でないと分かれば話は一気に急展開しますからね。高野を重要参考人として手配できます。幸い向こうの柔道部とは交流がありますので、お隣ちょいとみっちり話し込んできますよ。
It looked like Fuushi was proactively moving forward with the investigation. If that body is really is Takano, that would be sad for her, but would give me reason to trust the mountain dogs. If that's not Takano, then it would tell me that she's part of this whole incident. No matter what the result is, it will give me some kind of hint. But only if I'm still alive.
羽生も聡子と同じなのね。何かの幸運か、誰かが助けて奇跡を起こしてくれるまで耐えて待っているだけ。戦うことを恐れているだけよ。それを強さだと勘違いしている。つい最近までは私もそうだったけどね。
Hanyu looked down and bit her lip. She couldn't deny what I said.
あんたも何度も聞いてるはず。奇跡ってのはみんなで団結しないと起こせない。団結というのはつまり信じること。みんなで信じないと奇跡は起こせないのよ。
I had to tip my hat to them. Everything seems so foolish now. And so I decided to just tell them everything.
話せと言うなら話しますです。でもどうせ信じられませんのです。
信じるさ。リカちゃんが真実を語る限り俺たちは疑わない。
ま、だとするとすぐに部活メンバーは臨戦態勢に入った方が良さそうだね。状況を整理しよう。リカちゃんを殺すと大惨事になると信じてる連中がリカちゃんの命を狙う可能性がある。間違いないね。
可能性でなく必ず殺しに来ますです。
ウグイスより本部。ウグイスより本部。電話設備工作中にトラブル。私服警官2名の職質と思われる。発砲許可を申請。
本部了解。許可を待て。
By the time Ushi and Kumagai reached the phone facility, they were being watched from all directions. There were 2 pairs of binoculars, and 2 sniper rifles pointing at them. Kumagai heard a quiet noise. It was similar to the sound of the jump rope that he used to use as a whip when he was little. And that was the last thought Kumagai had in this world. Kumagai collapsed onto the gravel. That was it. He didn't even twitch. Ushi was laying on his back on the concrete after getting shot in the chest. His lungs were filled with blood, which began to pour out of his mouth. Ushi only realized that he'd been shot when the world began to blur before his eyes.
ウグイスより本部。2名を射殺。作業を再開。
本部了解。警官の車両処理は慎重に行われたし。3佐、ウグイスは警官2名を排除。作業を再開。
おやすみなさい、大石さん。私の尻尾をつかめてもう一息だと思ったでしょうに。残念ね。
こちら大鳥店。R 以下2名が感づいた。2階の窓から飛び降りたぞ。 裏の茂みへ逃走している。大鳥4、5、そっちへ行くぞ。制圧しろ。
大鳥4、沈黙。
I can see them clearly now. They're the gardeners from that landscape company. They're wearing the same uniforms Okanogi was always wearing. They must be the mountain dogs. Now I'm certain that Takano is the culprit. And now that I know that, I can do something about it in the next world. But if I die now, will I lose my memory again? I can't die now. I need to survive so I can keep my memories. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Higurashi no Kaikai Chapter 7. So, I've contemplated my two choices here, and I don't really think I had to really think about all that much. Like fucking hell, I'm going to leave Satoko behind. Wait a minute. It didn't...
Satoko!
It didn't let me choose on my own? Okay, if they weren't gonna actually give me a choice here, then why give me the prompt to begin with? Probably for rule of drama. Anywho, please don't die, either of you. I beg of you. Satoko's bravery gives me courage. If I left her, I'd lose my motivation to defeat fate. I don't care if I lose my memories. It only took 100 years for me to get this information. I don't care if I have to spend another 100 years in this same June. I can't leave Satoko!
Satoko! Sagatte! 二人で戦おう! Rika! 逃げなさいって言いましたですのよ!
I had noticed something. They're only aiming at Satoko. There must be a reason why they can't shoot me. So I stood in front of Satoko to protect her. Just as I expected, they put their guns down and prepared to take us out without weapons.
あんたらは山犬ね。やっぱり黒幕は高野だったのね。私もバカね。あんたたちの正体を知りながら逃げることを選ばないなんて。でもね、私は逃げないの。ここであんたたちに殺されるのが運命なんてね。金魚すくいの網より薄いって教えてくれた人がいるから。
You must think this is my final speech. They let me talk until I was finished.
バカな奴らね。だからあんたたちは金魚が救えないんだ。
The next moment, one of them dropped to the ground. Keiichi had run toward him and kicked him from behind. Where were you? Keiichi had kicked him right in the small of his back, and the dog was squirming on the ground. The other two tried to retaliate, but they were too late. Mion grabbed one of the guy's arms from behind and flipped him down to the ground. Must be some kind of martial art. I've seen something like that in an action movie before. Reina tried to push the remaining dog down with all her strength, but that wasn't enough to take him out. He tried to aim his gun at Reina, but she had already done what she was supposed to. All she needed to do was get his attention. Shion had snuck up behind him, and she fired her stun gun into his neck. The stun gun made a snapping noise, and the dog fell down to the ground with the rest of his friends.
葛西のやつ改造済みとは言ってたけど、こりゃ効きます。シオン、こっちの連中にもお願い。
大丈夫か、サトコにリカちゃん。まさに危機一髪だったな。お前らの足が速いんで追いつくのに苦労したぜ。
ずっと待っててよかったね。
You and me both.
張り込んでた甲斐があったよ。 張り込んでたって、あの後、お家へ帰らずずっと見張っていましたの、皆さんは。
Duh?
帰り際にね、すっごく不審な人がずっと草陰に潜んでて神社を伺ってるのを見つけたの。
Perceptive as always.
いやー、よく見つけたよな、あの暗闇で。レナには嘘も明細も通用しないってことだな。
So, figuring he would leave if they spoke to him, they secretly staked out that suspicious man. They'd start following us as soon as they heard the sound of the firecrackers.
まさかここでみんなに救われるとは思わなかったのです。
とにかくここにいたらすぐに応援が来るぞ。
Yeah, seriously, get a freaking move on. Their backup is right behind you.
どうするこれから。
私たちミオンさんの家に逃げ込むつもりでしたのよ。地下でかくまってもらえるとかいう話で。
地下最後殿ですか？確かにあそこなら都合がいいです。しかもあそこ武器も隠してませんでしたっけ？
Please tell me you got a machine gun in there.
そういうのは言わない。
No, tell me more. Give me a reason to be hopeful.
とにかく私もうちに逃げ込むのは賛成。あそこには秘密の通路がいくつもあるから連中の裏をかけるよ。
なら急ごう。追っ手が来てる。
A white van was approaching us at high speed. It obviously belonged to the mountain dogs. If only we had a rocket launcher right now. Blow that van to all the way to Tennessee. The van stopped not far from us, and more people in uniform jumped out. There were at least 6 of them. If we all run, the slowest runner might get caught. So we should take them down while we can. I hope you guys know what you're doing, because these are military guys you're going up against. They're not like a bunch of freaking goons. Not your average ones, anyway. I don't know if they have a license, but me and Shion know how to drive a car. We can take their van and get away from here.
6人だ。ちょうどいいね。全員の全力でぶちのめして車をいただこう。
それは明暗ですわね。
そうと決まりゃ速攻だぜ。
The mountain dogs were ready to chase us. They had no idea that we would try and attack them instead. Reina is always the first one to make a move in this kind of situation. She gets so determined once a decision is made. She immediately singled out one dog and punched him in the nose. Another one tried to grab her from behind, but Keiichi kicked him in the side as hard as he could.
おいおいレナ、やり合うときは背中を気にしろよ。
ケイチ君に任せるよ。よろしくね。
レナさんのひなみ沢復帰前ってめちゃくちゃ興味あります。というか人殴るのに躊躇なさすぎ。スタンガン使うのに躊躇ないあんたが言わない。
Given that Shion had that stun gun, the mountain dogs were reluctant to go after her. Why? Don't they have bigger guns? They were scared of the very dangerous weapon she had in her hand. Well, I guess it's a good thing that those guys are cowards. But thanks to that, Shion had stopped one of them for certain. It was fortunate for us that they didn't have any guns of their own. Oh, that's why. Well, then, yeah, I guess I'd understand their fear. They had no way of countering Shion's stun gun. You have fists and wit, don't you? You'd be surprised how far you can go with just those 2 things. Satoko attacked him from behind. She encircled his neck with a jump rope and pulled. Shion followed up, quickly hitting him with her stun gun. What was I doing during all that? The only thing I can do is run around and try to get their attention. They're pursuing me, after all. They want to catch me more than anything else. but that leaves them open to attacks from my friends. Keiichi had already hit the one trying to grab me. I think we have a chance here. We may not be able to take all of them down, but we can try and find a chance to escape to their vehicle.
リカちゃんから話を聞いていた時、とんでもねえ奴らだとビビっていたが、どうやら俺たちと同等程度みたいじゃねえか。
Well, I would hope so, considering that these are military guys. But anyway, I would hope that you can also knock all of them out here, so by the time at least one of them regains consciousness, you'll be far and away from here in that van of theirs. They'll need a few minutes here to basically pick themselves up, figure out what happened, and then hopefully by the time they realize that you ran off with one of their vans somewhere, you'll be far enough away from them to where they won't know for sure where you've gone until you're well underground.
兄ちゃんの部活メンバーはつまりそのくらい強いってことなんだね。
恐れないというのが多分強さの秘密ですね。お姉の部活は遠慮ってやつをなくす訓練みたいなもんですから。
If we all fight together, we can win this 6-on-6 battle. If any of us wasn't here, they'd beat us easily. We'd end up dead. If my friends hadn't stayed behind, I would have been killed by now. We can do it. We can make it. The dogs Shion took down for stun gun were starting to wake up. Stun him again! The ones that we knocked out earlier were also up and chasing us again. We had to get out of here. This isn't a time for me to just be running around.
ちょうどいいわね。やってやるわ。リカ、羽生、あなたは相変わらず諦めてるんでしょ。諦めない悪あがきがどれだけの力を持つか、そこで見てなさい。私は打ち破る。私たちは打ち破る。今からね。それをあなたの目の前で見せてあげる。
よし、みんないいね。一撃で決めるよ。目の前の敵を一人撃ち倒せ。それから車を奪って逃げる。
はいです。僕もやりますですよ。
気に入ったぜリカちゃん。よっしゃ行くぞー。
Go for the nuts. On Keiichi's signal, we attacked 6 of the mountain dogs in unison. Time gradually slowed down. I truly felt like I was trying to overcome that impossible wall of time and change my fate. However, time continued to slow even further until it stopped. What's going on? It felt like the film reel of a movie had gotten hung up partway through. Like time itself had come to a standstill.
羽生、
What the hell?
どういうこと？その時が来たのです。どうして？
Wearing a sad expression, Hanyu pointed at Keiichi. I finally noticed something. All my friends had noticed already. Except for Keiichi.
ケイイチ、その胸の前に浮いているのは何ですか？
Oh fuck, it's a bullet.
何ってなんだよ。あ？これなんだよ。
Wait, time didn't stop for you? Time had stopped. Just when Keiichi was about to hit his opponent. He then realized that something was floating in front of his heart. Get out of the way! It was a metallic silver cone. That was the first thing I could think of.
嘘。ケイちゃん。
なんだよこれ。まさか。
Oh, wait. Maybe
集
it's...
団？
That's exactly what it was. The bullet had stopped about 15 centimeters away from Keiichi's chest, just before it would enter his body. That's right. Once time starts moving again, it will slam into his chest. In other words, it's too late. Keiichi will immediately die when the time starts up again. He's aware of it, isn't he? Can't he move out of the way?
誰が撃ったの？だって相手は6人、誰も銃なんか持ってないよ。あそこ、ワゴン車のところですわ。
Satoko couldn't point at the van. Time had completely stopped after all. Okay, so they can perceive the time stop, but they can't move their bodies. Interesting way of stopping time, but a strange one. We could see another person standing near the van. There had actually been 7 people inside, not 6. That 7th person was the one who fired the bullet. We hadn't seen her at all. That person is someone we all know very well. Takano? Yes, it's Takano.
高野さんだ。高野さんが撃ったの？圭一君は？
In the frozen world, Takano was smiling, still aiming her gun at Keiichi. Takano had been watching us from the van this whole time. She came out and fired her gun, knowing that we hadn't seen her at all.
そっか、なるほどな。やっぱり黒幕は高野さんだったんだな。
どうしよう。ケイちゃん、なんとか体をひねってかわせないんですか？
バカ。弾丸だって止まるくらいに全てが止まってるんだぞ。俺だって動けるわけがねえだろ。なら
時間が動き出すのと一緒に上半身をそらすんですの。そうすれば少しでも違うかもしれませんわよ。
Everyone was desperate to save Keiichi. However, no matter how hard we thought, we couldn't come up with any ideas to save him from the bullet. We were so desperate that Keiichi started to laugh.
なんかよくわからないけどさ。とにかく、こうなっちまったものは仕方がない。時間が動き出せば、俺は死ぬだろう。死ななくても、まあ少なくとも戦力にはならなくなるな。だからみんな、今のうちに、俺のこと、そして目の前の敵と高野さんをぶちのめして、車を奪うことを考えるんだ。
嫌です。圭一が死んでもダメです。そんな世界は嫌なのです。アニュー、これが運命だというの？避けられない運命だというの？大丈夫ですよ、リカ。
Not really.
忘れられます。忘れられますから。嘘だよ、嘘だ！ケイちゃんがこのまま死んじゃうなんて。やめなよ、みーちゃん。とにかく目の前の相手を倒すことに集中しよう。倒れる圭一君に振り返る時間をきっと圭一君は望まない。
ああ、そうだぜ、レナ。頼むぞみんな、リカちゃんを。まずはこの場を逃げ延びて監督に連絡を取れ。多分こいつらは大石さんをもう殺してる。だからあれだけ待っても来なかったんだ。みんな生き延びろよ、絶対だ。
圭一！
リカちゃん、最後の最後にごめんな。運命なんて覆せるって大見え切っておきながら最初にリタイアしちまう。
It sounded just like Takano's regular laughter, but it was the scariest noise I'd ever heard.
根性の名残は尽きた？
高野さん、これで俺たちが負けたと思うなよ。
見終わったのね、走馬灯。
I'm surprised even she's taking this time stop thing very well. The silence suddenly ended, and the clamor of reality returned. An explosive sound then hit Keiichi straight in the chest. I watched Keiichi collapse right in front of me. He fell down on his back while his blood splattered everywhere. And after that, he stopped moving. Oh! There's no way any of us weren't shocked by that. We tried to take down the foes in front of us, but more came from behind. We tried to struggle as best we could, but there was no way we could win against all those adults. No! I did my best to fight them off, but they pulled my hair and picked me up as if I weighed nothing. I heard everyone's desperate screams of resistance. The comforting and courageous unity we showed right before Keiichi was shot shattered like glass. The debris of that glass lay sadly on the ground. Takano's annoying laughter was still echoing inside my ears.
高野より本部へ。制圧したわ。私の言ったものを準備させて。それから死体がたくさん出るから処分の手配を。死体袋が5つと血を流すのに水がいるわね。持ってこさせて。
She needs 5 bags. My body froze up, but time did not. Takano, laughing, pointed her gun at Mion's head.
嘘でしょ。
あなたの背中の入れ墨、一度見てみたかったの。後で見せてもらうわね。
見たければ勝手に見ればいいでしょ。見たってつまらないよ。
そう？私は楽しいと思うわよ。やめて！
みーちゃんを撃たないで！
Takano shot her head in response to Reina's scream.
ダメよ。ミオンちゃんが部長さんなんだから一番じゃなきゃね。
嘘。
Wait a minute.
やめ。
Shook her head. Okay, so I did misread that. Excuse me. There was a dull noise, followed by Mion's body twitching. We all tried to break free from the men restraining us, as Takano calmly shot Mion. However, they were too strong, and all we could do was squirm like insects. Takano was enjoying watching us struggle. She then stepped towards Satoko, but Shion started screaming curses at her.
あら、あなたが先に撃たれたいのかしら？おとなしくしてれば、もう数秒は余計に生きられたのに。
やめてシオンさん。挑発なんかしても意味がありませんでしたよ。
I know why she's doing that. Shion wants to protect Satoko for as long as she can. She's trying to do what Satoshi told her to. Takano didn't care one whit for Shion's feelings. Stepping over Keiichi's body, she approached Shion.
私、サトシ君をあんたが殺したんですね。そうなんでしょ。
あいにくね、メイドの土産って嫌いなの。
Why are you keeping that a secret?
だから教えてあげないわ。
Shion's body twitched. That had followed the dull sound of another gunshot. Just 2 dull sounds had stolen away the lively Sonozaki sisters. It didn't add up. I started shaking from fear when it hit me just how easily Takano can take away lives.
無抵抗の人を撃って楽しいの？この人でなし！
あら、次はあなたが撃たれたいの？黙ってれば最後の順番になったのに。
Keiichi, Mion, and Shion died. The oldest one of us left was Reina. Reina didn't want to see Satoko and me die before she did.
連続開始事件は全部高野さんの仕業だったんですね。お社様のたたりの代行者のつもりだったんですか？
代行者じゃないわ。私がたたりを下すのよ。
Divine punishment for what? What the hell did the village do to deserve divine punishment?
あなたには見せられないわね。お社様の怒りがこれからこの村に下るのは、それは私が起こす。私のたたり。そう。私はまさにお社様そのものになるのよ。その時、私は人としての域をようやく超えることができるの。まあ、あなたには私の気持ちはわからないでしょうね。
Clearly.
人を超えて神になろうとする心地よさなど、誰にも理解できないわよ。
You're fucking nuts.
無理だと思うな。高野さんがどれだけお社様のふりをしたってお社様にはなれないよ。所詮はごっこ遊び。お社様になんかあなたはなれない。
なれるわよ。これからなるもの。
Reina laughed at her. Takano seemed very upset to hear that laugh.
何がおかしいのかしら。
無理だよ。だってお社様はいるんだもの。
Did you notice Hanyu or something? Those were Reina's last words.
さて、最後はさとこちゃんね。あなたは殺しても殺さなくてもどうでもいいの。でもあなたは生きた研究資料だからね。東京はあなたの生きたままの捕獲に懸賞金をつけてくれてるわ。
Is that what happened to her? At the end of chapter 3? She was just captured by you fuckers?
大した額じゃない。私の取り分はせいぜいヨーロッパに旅行に行ったら消える程度よ。まあ生け捕りにしてもあなたは結局はろくな目に遭わないけどね。
Like you'd fucking care.
生きたまま頭蓋を切開されるのが関の山よ。それに私あなたとはお友達だったしね。この場で撃ち殺してあげるのも優しさかと思ってる。どっちがいい？
そんなの決められるわけないでございますわよ。
Satoko shouted back at her. Her eyes were full of tears.
じゃあクイズ。ブロッコリーとカリフラワー、緑色はどっち？
Oh, you fucking bitch.
いえ、ブロッコリー。
Pow. As soon as I heard that same dull sound, Satoko stopped moving. Takano smiled and said, "Good girl," to what used to be Satoko. I really want to wring this bitch's neck.
本当に今夜は月の綺麗な素敵な夜だことね。あなたもそう思わない？
そして私を殺すのね。
ええ、殺すわ。女王感染者の死体が作戦の鍵なの。あなたはここから遠く離れた東京の地での醜い政治的勢力争いの具になるのよ。そして鬼ヶ淵村の伝説のピリオドとなる。
私をどういう殺し方にするか高野の考えそうなこと。
あら、わかるの？言ってみて。
I'm not going to say it, but I know. It's Watanagashi. She wants to do the real Watanagashi, using my body. I'm sure she's planning to cut open my stomach and pull out my guts. To do that, she'll make me inhale some chemical to put me to sleep. I vaguely remember that part.
想像がついてるよね。じゃあ、おやすみなさい、リカちゃん。
One of the dogs approached me with a handkerchief soaked in a chemical substance.
高野、待ちなさい。
みんな潔く死んだのに、あなたは命乞いなの？
違うわ。私を殺すな。眠らさずに殺しなさい。
Takano hadn't expected to hear that. Still, even though she was surprised, she nodded with a slight smile. Are you hoping that if you're awake throughout your death, the memory and pain, the memory of it, the pain that you experience will help you remember everything that happened in the next world? Quite the gamble, if that's what you're going for. I hope it pays off. Hani was also surprised to hear that. It would obviously be a terrible way to die.
どういうつもり？楽に死ぬ気がないの？辛いわよ。生きたまま腹を裂かれるのは
忘れないためよ。
Yes. I'm doing it so I'll remember. I'm not going to forget about it. Okay, so I did guess your plan.
あなたが私の腹を裂くの。それを私は絶対に忘れない。あなたに再び会った時、あなたが敵であることを思い出すために。
何を企んでるやら。でもあなたは他の子たちよりは少しは賢明みたいね。1秒でも長生きすれば悲鳴を上げるくらいのチャンスはあるかもしれないからね。でもそうはさせないわ。
They forced something other than the handkerchief inside of my mouth. It was a gag. With that in, I couldn't close my mouth, leading my saliva to start overflowing. Soon, another van arrived. More mountain dogs came out of it. They had probably come to get rid of the bodies. They grabbed the corpses of my friends and stuffed them into body bags. After that, they sprayed a bunch of water on the ground to clean up the blood. They asked Takano how many shots she fired and started looking around for the bullets. They were erasing all the evidence. By the time the night was over, there'd be no more proof left. They pulled my hands behind my back and bound them with handcuffs. My ankles were tied up too. They also tied my ankles and wrists together. My body was bent like a shrimp, and I was no longer able to walk. My mouth was covered, so I couldn't even talk. I couldn't move, talk, or express myself in any other way. They had taken away everything that made me human. Therefore, I wasn't human anymore. I was just a toy named Rika Farud. A toy to give Takano joy. The car started moving. It seemed like we were going back the way we came, but I didn't care anymore. As the time of my death approached, some of my forgotten memories came back to me. That's right. I was killed like this so many times. Every time I repeated my life, Takano got pleasure out of killing me. Somebody rubbed my head. Were they trying to comfort me? I shook my head to try and refuse. They laughed at me as I did so. Hanyu showed up. She couldn't hold back her devastated tears. When I saw Hanyu's painful tears, I was convinced. I was wrong. Hanyu is not just a bystander. She's just too scared to face reality because she can't stand the pain anymore. Hanyu wants a happy future too. But her hopes were betrayed countless times, and she was hurt far too much. For some reason, seeing her sorrowful expression calmed me down. Perhaps Hanyu was crying in my place.
いいのよ、羽生。私たち、あれだけ努力した。精一杯頑張った。もう一息で、運命を覆せそうな予感すらした。それでも届かなかったなら仕方がないし。それにね、なんだか気持ちいいの。
I never fought this hard in my life. I never learned so many things. Because I can repeat my life endlessly, I've been taking each one for granted. But everyone else is taking their lives seriously. I wasn't learning anything because I wasn't doing that. But I finally understand. I learned something from this life, and I put all my efforts into it. So, I'm sad that I didn't make it, but I feel satisfied just the same. It's a strange kind of satisfaction. I wonder how many of these memories I can keep. I get the sense that I'm going to lose my memory of this evening. If that's the case, I will lose my memory of seeing Takano's face. I finally found out that Takano is the mastermind. Am I going to repeat the same world again, not knowing the truth? She killed my friends as if she were merely killing some bugs. I don't want to forget that! No matter how hard my death will be, I need to remember Takano's face.
羽生、私はくじけない。この記憶がたとえ引き継げなくてもいい。がむしゃらに生きていく。6月の狭い日々にしか生きられなくなり、最後には綿流しの日にしか生きていられない存在になってもいい。それが私の生なら、精一杯生きて、きっと自分。僕も忘れません。きっと覚えてて、もしリカが忘れていたら、きっと僕が教えますから。羽生、あなたはやっぱり冷たい傍観者のふりをしていたのは悲しさに怯えていたからなんだよね。僕もみんなと楽しく過ごす未来に行きたかったです。
Hanyu started to cry like a baby. She's so stupid. She decided to abandon hope because she didn't want to deal with the sadness that she always felt on this night. But she ended up hurt and devastated anyway. Hanyu, are you happy that this world is ending just like you predicted? I decided not to ask her such an unpleasant question. I think it's pretty self-evident what she would say. Just look at her face. The car stopped, and two men pulled me out of the vehicle. We had returned to the Farood shrine. There were several men waiting in front of the offertory box. Nearby, there were countless sharp knives laid out on the ground. They're going to cut open my stomach with those tools and pull out my intestines. They took off all my clothes. They left a gag inside my mouth and handcuffs around my wrists. I wasn't embarrassed to be naked in front of them. Rather, I was just furious that Takano was getting joy out of doing this to me. Don't forget this humiliation. The pain I'm about to experience should be carved into my soul forever. I'm not going to forget this. Everyone worked together, and we finally revealed who was behind it all. If I forget this, my friends' efforts and deaths will have been in vain. I need to stay alive as long as I can, so that I will remember the pain.
羽生、目を背けないで。あなたも見ていなさい。そして心に刻んで。僕にはそのくらいの協力しかできないのでしょうか。触ることも喋ることもできない僕にはそんなことしかできないのでしょうか。それで十分よ。あなたが目を背けないでいてくれたなら、私も多分痛みに耐えられると思うから。
This is gonna be hard for me to watch. Hanyu nodded and sat right next to me, while continuing to cry. We then looked up at the night sky together. The moon was shining brightly, as if taking pity upon me. We also looked at the faces of my murderers. That beautiful moon was gradually stained red. It's getting cold. It's so painful. I'm consumed with the fear of not being able to do anything about this. But Hanyu is right next to me. That gives me comfort. It's not just Hanyu either. Everyone is here with me. Everyone is there, watching me, so I can stand this torture. That's why it wasn't painful. I didn't struggle. I didn't care about Takano's crazy laughter. This was such a wonderful world. We didn't overcome this fate, but I have no regrets. Of course, I'm still sad. I'm disappointed. My future was right in front of my eyes. My hand could almost reach it. Even so, we did what we could. I have to be proud of myself. Keiichi voiced his disagreement. He still felt that we could have done more. We were almost there. We almost defeated this fate. We didn't win, but not because our enemies were strong. We didn't win because we didn't try hard enough.
でも、みんなは心を一つにして頑張っていましたのです。僕は見ていました。全部見ていましたのです。
いや、足りてなかったんだ。運命を打ち破ろうとする意志が全員で結束できていたなら、必ず奇跡は起こせたんだ。
そうなんだよ。全員が信じたなら、必ず奇跡が起こせるんだよ。
聡子もリカちゃまも、みんなよく頑張りました。
ごめんなさいですわ、リカ。あなたが打ち明ける勇気を見せてくれたのに、私はあなたを救えなかったですわ。
Satoko held my shoulder and cried.
そうよ。みんなで力を合わせたわ。それでダメなら仕方のないこと。ありがとう、みんな。 本当にありがとう。多分、あまたの世界と同じ死を迎えるのに、こんなにも諦めがつく死は初めて。この死を代償に、私は本当に大切なことを学んだ。リカちゃん、違うの。奇跡が起こらなかった理由、レナは知ってるよ。
Rena spoke gently, but she wasn't smiling at all. Then have her sprite show as much, god damn it.
ねえ、本当にみんな奇跡を起こそうと信じてた？
Well, ask Debbie Downer.
未来を望むとき、全員が信じてなかったら、奇跡は起こらないんだよ。
何言ってんだよレナ。俺たちは結束した、団結した。運命を打ち破れることを疑わなかったぞ。なあミオン。
うん、そうだよレナ。誰も運命に勝てないなんて思わなかったよ。リカちゃんのこの運命を覆したいと思う誰もが絶対に運命を打ち破れると信じてたよ。
そうですわ。リカですらそれを信じましたのよ。最後の最後にリカは私たちを信じて運命を打ち破れると信じましたのよ。もちろんレナも信じたよ。でも信じなかった人がいると思うの。誰がです？
What? Who can it be? Well, guess.
ねえ、あなた。
Rena turned to Hanyu and asked her a question.
あなた、信じてた？運命に打ち勝てるって信じててくれた？
She can see... I'm assuming that the club members we're seeing here are apparitions in Rika's mind. But I'm kind of surprised that Hanyu can see them too.
触れることができなくても、喋ることができなくても、信じることはできるんだよ。あなたも信じてくれたなら、きっと奇跡が起きた。僕が信じて何が変わったのでしょうか。僕は何もできない非力な存在なのです。僕は見ていることしかできない、受け入れることしかできない。そんな僕が信じるだけで奇跡が起こせたというのですか？
ああ、起こせたな。
Keiichi stated it clearly. He wasn't trying to blame her. He was just stating the truth.
そうだね。あの時、こっちは6人だった。向こうは7人だった。あなたが信じてくれてたら、それだけで心は7つだった。だったなら、きっと奇跡が起きた。奇跡はね、触れたり、喋ったりで起こすんじゃないんだよ。信じる気持ちが起こすんだよ。
Hanyu had realized that this ending wasn't caused by fate. It was because she didn't believe. In other words, this happened because she was so weak as to accept this fate. She started crying again.
名前も知らないあなた。あなたにも悲しみや辛さと戦う勇気が必要だった。あなたも運命と戦う勇気が必要だった。あなたが望んだなら、みんなが望む世界にきっと行けた。それが、あなただけが信じなかっただけでたどり着けなかったなら、それは、 あなたの責任なの。
It was hard to believe Reina could say something so harsh. Her words were piercing Hanyu's heart. But those words were necessary for me and for her. Only faith can create a miracle. That sounds like something you might hear in a fairy tale. It's not easy to put into action. People suspect others. They don't trust others. It's easier to not have hope. It's so difficult to believe. That's why faith can make miracles happen.
僕は触れないのですよ。喋れないのですよ。そんな僕でも信じれば奇跡が起こったというのですか？だって今こうしてレナとあなたは話しているよ。私はあなたと言葉を交わしたのはこれが初めてだけれど、いつもあなたがいるのを知っていた。あなたに言葉をどうすればかけられるか考えていたよ。
And you never mentioned this to the rest of us before. Why?
私たちが楽しく遊んでいるとき、あなただけが輪の外から眺めていたことを知っていたんだよ。だって輪の中に入りたくても僕は誰にも見えないし話しかけられないし。
Maybe she doesn't mean literally?
僕を見たらみんな化け物だと言いますです。僕はもう二度と化け物と言われたくないのです。
誰が言うよそんなことを。俺たちと一緒にいたなら俺たちは仲間だ。
そうですわよ。仲間のことを化け物呼ばわりなんて失礼しちゃいますわ。
化け物かどうかは容姿じゃなくて心で決まるんだよ。ね、シオン。
そういうことです。
まあその見地から言えば私の方がよっぽど化け物ですよ。
頭に角が生えていても僕は化け物とは呼ばれないのでしょうか？身体的特徴で化け物なんて誰も呼ばないよ。むしろキュートなくらいだよ。
レナに気をつけろ。変に気に入られるとお持ち帰りされるぞ。
I realized then that I was standing with everyone, looking down at my own body. I see. I'm finally dead. I looked at my bloody body by my feet. It upset me that Takano was still enjoying the torture, but the body that remained was nothing but a shell.
大丈夫かリカちゃん。
死んだ人に大丈夫かとは変な話なのです。
Everyone smiled wryly. It's my first time feeling so much love and death. Everyone is already dead. That's why I feel so happy to be dead. To join them. Suddenly, the world got darker, and my body started to sink downward. I could feel myself disappearing. I still had the sensation of my friends' hands on mine.
行こうぜみんな。
そうだね。行こう行こう。あなたもみんなという言葉に含まれてるんだよ。ほら、いつまでも泣いてないで行こう。
My vision had gone dark, but somehow I could still see. Reina offered her hand to Hanyu, and Hanyu slowly took it.
羽生、あなたが私と出会う前にどんな悲しいことがあったか知らないけれど、みんなは絶対にあなたを受け入れてくれるわ。 僕がいても楽しいでしょうか。僕はみんなに受け入れてもらえるのでしょうか。うん。だから、おいで。
Reina touched Hanyu's hand. It felt like everyone else laid their hands on top too. If only they had hands to do so. Let's go, Hanyu. Let's accept this sorrow, so we can embrace joy as well. Believe in the bright future that's waiting for us. The miracle will happen. We will obtain it. Okay? Yes, Hanyu said, with a definite nod. What's outside of the well? Is it something worth fighting for? What's outside of the well? Is it something worth getting hurt for? What's outside of the well? I'm going to fight and get hurt in order to find that out. I'm sure what's waiting is a beautiful world, even if I get to the bottom of the well again. The key to the new world is my willingness to get out of here. Even if I can get out or not, I will eventually get to the new world. I was certain that we were going to turn things around, too. But I guess Hanyu is going to be joining us and putting in more of a fight in the next world. So I guess we have that to be happy about. But everything else, though, well, maybe I should break out that Nicolas Cage clip again. I guess there is also the fact that we now know for certain what's really going on in this village, and who's apparently behind it all. So if we can just get everybody to remember what happened in this world, in the next one, maybe then we can finally get the happy ending that they all deserve. And since Chapter 8 is apparently supposed to be the last chapter of the main story, then, well, I guess one way or another, everything is going to come to an end in Chapter 8. I just really hope here that it'll be a good end for everybody. I mean, after all the bullshit they've been through so far, they deserve it. Emergency Manual 1. If the existence of a terminal patient, L5, is confirmed, the Institute's director must resolve the situation before the L5 begins engaging in antisocial behavior. However, they must ensure that the secret remains hidden. To that end, the director may also request assistance from the Secrecy Preservation Unit. As for the Secrecy Preservation Unit, they may request permission to fire from the Institute director if necessary. All efforts should be made to secure the L5 subject alive, but if that proves obstructive to maintain secrecy, their life may be forfeit. At all times, maintain secrecy and preventing exposure will be of the highest priority. However, preserving secrecy will take up priority over preventing exposure. Emergency Manual Appendix 9 FAQ. Question: can Emergency Manual 34 be administered if an outbreak of L5 occurs, putting matters beyond the control of the Secrecy Preservation Unit. Additionally, is the Institute Director responsible for determining what constitutes an out-of-control situation? Answer: yes. Question: if an accident occurs and a hazardous material, the H.7 series, is exposed to the public, can Emergency Manual 34 be administered? Yes. If an accident has occurred and the nature of the Institute is revealed to the public, the Secrecy Preservation Unit will take steps to resolve the situation. However, if this information is spread too widely, can Emergency Manual 34 still be administered? Additionally, is the Institute Director responsible for making that decision? Yes. That's that much power, huh? The decision to execute Emergency Manual 34 must be carefully deliberated over and sanctioned by an official. However, in the case of emergency, does the Institute Director have the right to make the final decision? Answer: the execution of Emergency Manual 34 must be sanctioned by an official at all times. However, the Institute Director may petition the urgency of its use to an official. Emergency Manual 34. Reproduction or removal of this document is prohibited. This manual may only be read with the appropriate permissions. This manual will only apply upon approval by the highest authority. Nothing short of official authorization shall count as approval. Furthermore, those authorized to apply this manual must make their decision as soon as possible when it is required. If the situation threatens to spiral out of control, and the official accedes that this is the case, the Irie Institute must make the final decision to preserve the secret and prevent its detection by others. The following is an outline of how to execute that final resolution. Terminate all patients above L2. Destroy all evidence inside the Institute. Conceal the fact that this manual was administered. The contents of this manual must be executed by the Institute's director within 48 hours of the incident. If the director is not available, the chief officer must execute it in his place. The Institute Director may demand support from the Chief Officer in executing this manual. If this manual is expected to be executed, the Chief Officer may issue the preliminary orders. The final resolution must be executed in the following steps. Disguise the incident as a natural gas disaster and quarantine the area. And so we have it. Documentation that outlines the cover-up. The quarantine unit must disguise themselves as police officers and isolate the Hinamizawa region from the outside world. The official explanation must be that there is a gas disaster within the village. The equipment for the operation will be stored at a vacant lot, where Yaguchi Quarry used to be. The equipment must undergo routine maintenance. In the event of eventual breach or internal escape, if they do not respond to notice of the gas disaster or orders to evacuate, use of firearms is authorized. The approval to use firearms is given by the Chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit to the Chief of the Traffic Blockade Unit. Shutting down communications. The Communications Sabotage Unit must ensure that all forms of communication, including radio, have been disabled in the Hinamizawa area. Kind of lines up with what those mountain dogs did here prior to getting rid of Rika. Except it seems like they decided to move a step ahead before a disaster even occurred. They must take care not to fall under suspicion, and communications must be disrupted for a minimum amount of time. The facility belonging to the telephone company is inside of the traffic blockade, so any civilians inside may be shot and killed. The chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit may give permission to use lethal force to the chief of the Communications Sabotage Unit. Assembling the infected carriers. The Secrecy Preservation Unit must assemble the infected populace in the Hinamizawa Regional Disaster Shelter. Refer to the enclosed documents for gathering procedures. Upon assembly, the unit must count the number of the infected and confirm that everyone is present. Be sure to not allow the infected to expose the true nature of the gas disaster. Additionally, the infected must not be allowed to bring any large personal belongings with them. However, they may take their valuables, including bank books and cash. Infected who refuse to assembly may be shot, but the chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit must carefully consider the decision to do so. Terminating the infected. Once they are assembled, the Secrecy Preservation Unit must terminate all the infected. Gathering them all to a fucking slaughter. Jesus. Before that point, they must be taken to ensure that they are not suspicious of the story of the gas disaster. Be sure that they are treated as humanely as possible. Right before you put the bullets in their brains. If any problems occur, the unit has approval to fire their weapons. The chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit must also make that decision. Bodies with gunshot wounds should not be placed together with those that have been poisoned. Concealment of the Institute. The Institute Concealment Unit must collect all the classified items, referred to the 193 items in the appendix, in the Institute in order to suppress the evidence. Refer to the appendix for more detailed instructions. The research staff at the Institute must assist with this operation. This unit must exercise extreme caution, as they will be handling a number of toxic substances. Strict quarantine must be maintained of the cement concealment block. I think I just realized why it is that Irie actually committed suicide in Chapter 3. This operation was probably already underway by the time that Keiichi and Satoko visited the Irie clinic. Because, I mean, after all, it was shortly right after they visited the clinic that they went to the Farouk Shrine and found Rika's dead body. Irie, seeing that all his work has basically went up in freaking smoke, couldn't handle the grief, and so he just chose to commit suicide. Either that, or the mountain dogs killed him to keep him from talking. I still think that's also a valid theory, but based on the timeline of events, I guess both theories are possible. Unless someone wants to point someone out to me and convince me otherwise, then, well, go right ahead, but I know it's gotta be one of those two. Strict quarantine must be maintained of the concealment block. The airproof door must be welded shut, and the underground area must be flooded. The entrance to the area must be welded shut and concealed completely. Furthermore, the concealment block will be completely removed within 3 years. The Institute Concealment Unit must eliminate all civilians who would try to approach the Institute. The use of firearms is not permitted, except in emergencies. The Chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit may give the order to fire. Searching the village. The Secrecy Preservation Unit must search the whole village for any survivors. Any person who was not present during the assembly must be found. Any survivors found after the termination of the infected may be shot immediately. However, if the survivor is willing to surrender, do not shoot, and instead take them to the custody of the Secrecy Preservation Unit. That's what the body bags were for then, when Keiichi woke up. They already killed all the villagers. So going by this timeline, I'm starting to think it's actually more likely that Irie was probably killed by the mountain dogs. keep him from talking. The unit must then terminate the captive, using the same method as for the other infected. Poison? Post-mission transfer to General Forces. Transfer the job to the official disaster recovery team. Make sure not to arouse suspicion. Complete withdrawal. After the completion of all operations, the Secrecy Protection Unit will retreat from the Hinamizawa area. They must be careful not to be suspected by a disaster recovery team. Furthermore, the Institute will continue to secure the concealment block until complete removal is finished. The Queen and her carriers. It is assumed that the pathogen has the same characteristics as creatures such as ants. There is a queen of the carriers of the disease, just like there is a queen ant, and this position has been passed down the line of the Farood family. This assumption is made based on the legends and ancient writings that have been passed down in the village. It is already confirmed that the carriers have a tendency to protect their queen. Additionally, the queen carrier can only survive within the boundary of the village. Probability of outbreak. As ordinary patients will become ill when they travel far away from the queen, it is assumed that the further and longer they are away from her, the higher the chance of symptoms occurring becomes. Also, mental state plays a strong factor as well, and it's estimated that those who are especially emotionally unstable or show strong yearning for their home are more likely to exhibit symptoms. It is believed that the Takano relaxation method is the most effective means of suppressing symptoms, but if the patient still shows no improvement, only returning them to their home and the queen will be effective. Concerning terminal patients. Terminal patients, as they suffer from an extreme persecution complex, are incapable of functioning within society. Cases of arson and murder have been confirmed. They may present severe problems for their units. Records show that terminal patients appear even in Hinamizawa, and they will not recover even if relocated nearer the queen. Therefore, the decision to dispose of the problem must be made as soon as possible. It's recommended that the infected be quarantined before they start behaving irregularly. We suggest tracking down those formerly from Hinamizawa and placing them under special medical observation. The collapse of the carrier community. For the aforementioned reasons, we predict that should the queen carrier die, infected villagers will exhibit terminal symptoms on a village-wide scale. Terminal symptoms will begin showing within 24 hours at the earliest and 48 at the latest. For that reason, the final decision must be made within 48 hours. Based on the size of the village, neither ordinary officers nor the military police may be able to control the chaos they may bring. We believe the best response is to treat them as an armed anti-national uprising and immediately suppress them with the military. January 1945. To Colonel Koizumi of the Supreme Council for the Direction of War. From Hifumi Takano. Well, I want to say that reading the name Hifumi Takano is a surprising little revelation for me, but that'd be a lie on my part because thanks to some recent conversations I've had with one of my regular viewers for this Let's Play series, particularly regarding some of the tips I've been reading throughout Chapter 7, I've basically been able to piece together what the T for Hifumi's last name stood for in advance, so yeah. But all the same though, like I was also discussing with that same person, given this revelation here and some of the stuff that this Hifumi ended up writing, particularly of the ones that talked about religious scripture from like the Bible and whatnot, and given some of the jargon that Takano seems to like speaking about divine punishment and becoming a god and whatnot. Yeah, I can kind of, it's kind of easy, to me at least, it's kind of easy to guess where she might have gotten some of that stuff from, you know? That being, well, apparently, her grandfather, Ifumi Takano, who also seems quite intimate with, Hinamizawa syndrome. But anyway, I could probably go on a few details, but I want to keep reading this, so let's continue. June 23rd, 1983. Document E420 for the 50th Defense Commissioner and TECOM 733 Commander. TECOM 733 is hereby ordered to be on standby within 24 hours, armed for urban suppression. The company commander must also thoroughly study Emergency Manual 34. Select personnel carefully within the preservation of secrecy in mind. Additionally, test the effectiveness of the vaccine with the support of the National Research Center of Infectious Diseases. Employ those with positive immunity. June 23, 1983. Document E7-11 for the 58th Director of the NIHS. Attention Equipment Testing Company on Commander 733. The National Research Center of Infectious Diseases. Infectious Pathogen Department Suite 13. Official seal omitted. About the Hinamizawa syndrome. This is information regarding the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa syndrome is an infectious disease caused by a virus. There is no initial symptoms. Instead, their onset begins when the patient's emotional state becomes unstable, or if the queen carrier dies. The main symptoms of the illness are hallucinations and emotional instability, paired with an extreme persecution complex. Furthermore, patients are frequently unaware of their own mental abnormalities, making identification outside examination nearly impossible. The only way to do so is by observing symptoms indicative of terminal abnormal behavior. In many cases, patients engage in antisocial behavior, which is the largest issue created by the syndrome. This behavior is caused by hormonal factors, as this disease mainly affects the mind, as opposed to the body. In the end, the patients will experience extreme irritation in their lymph nodes, and they will claw at their throats or wrists. This is the only symptom that is recognized by the patient. Important points regarding the sterilization operation. This is an advisory notice for virus control. The pathogen is an airborne infectious virus. It's airborne! And here I was thinking it was in something like the water supply, but wait a minute. This thing was speculated to come from the swamp. Did it mutate at some point into becoming an airborne pathogen? Therefore, no effective preventative methods exist, and inoculation is required. After the mission is completed, all staff members must take a medical exam, and those with positive test results must come forward. Be cautious when interacting with the carriers, villagers. Even after inoculation, any contact with their bodily fluids will cause infection. Do not come into contact with them. If assumed infected, individuals must use the testing syringe and test themselves for the disease. If you feel an extreme irritation in your lymph nodes, it's likely you have terminal symptoms. In that case, you must get tested immediately. Hence fevers and stuff, right? If test results come out positive, inject a treatment medication C120. If the irritation persists after 10 minutes, use a second injection. If there is still no change in symptoms, seek treatment at HQ. Do not use C120 if your test results are not positive. If used on a healthy body, symptoms of high fever, rashes, dilated pupils, and hallucination will be observable within 10 minutes. If this occurs, one must seek treatment at HQ. Government officials explained the entire situation in a luxurious meeting room adorned with a marble table and crystal ashtrays. The chief cabinet secretary was in a panic. He'd never heard about any of this before. Feelings of panic were only natural. One girl's death was going to drive 2,000 villagers into a frenzy. Hearing that a disease like that exists was surprising enough. But on top of that, it was secretly researched for military use, and now there was a horrific situation caused by a director of the local research institute engaging in embezzlement.
そんな危険な病気、初めて聞いたよ。本当に治療の手段はないのか？
はい。国立研究所の説明では、重度感染者の発症に対する治療法は確立したばかりで、全住民への対応は事実上不可能とのことです。最短で24時間以内、長くとも48時間以内に山荘の人口2000人が全て末期発症するとのことです。甚大な被害と影響が予想されます。
The danger of this Hinamizawa syndrome was explained over and over again to the chief secretary. He didn't have anything more to say, but that didn't mean he could blindly accept it either. He simply couldn't believe that the only way to resolve the situation was to kill all 2,000 infected villagers.
そりゃ大変なことになるのはわかるけど、そんなの許可できるわけないだろう。そもそもなんでこんな危険な病気を隠蔽して研究なんかしてたんだ。そもそもそういう事態を招いたのはその関係の連中の責任じゃないのかね。第一、こんな危険な研究は今や日本の国益に貢献しないどころか損ないかねんぞ。
Well, apparently there's a faction within Tokyo that seems to think otherwise.
どうして昭和の58年までこんな馬鹿げた研究をしていたんだ。報告書によれば研究目的のために撲滅を意図的に遅らせていたそうじゃないか。しかも汚職をめぐるトラブルの果てにこんな事態だ。これはテロだよ、テロ。東京の老害だ。こんな研究を支持していた人間には全員いつまでも大戦の亡霊に取り憑かれている連中を追放したまえ。これは東京の海を出すいい機会じゃないのかね。
I'm beginning to like this guy. He's talking nothing but sense as far as I'm concerned.
責任者の追及は必ず行いますが、それより前に対応を考えなければなりません。
A man standing by the window slowly turned around and opened his mouth.
総理、ご決断を。
滅菌作戦を承認しない場合のシミュレートを聞かせてください。
はい。今から36時間後には村人のほぼ10割が末期発症。末期的な被害妄想に取りつかれ、反社会的な行為を行います。想定されるのは自殺、殺人、放火、強盗、その他異常治安の完全なる崩壊です。騒動はおそらくひなみ沢地区のみでなく周辺地区へも波及します。結果、世界規模での注目を浴びることになるでしょう。民間の独自調査の結果、奇病が原因であることが発覚するのは食い止められません。野党は奇病の対応の不手際を政争の具に、また東京内でも総理の対応に批判が高まるでしょう。
Can't believe you're even talking about how this could affect your chances for re-election, your fucking political careers. We're talking about a village of 2,000 people.
彼らの指示は総理の列島改造に欠かせません。そして何よりも軍事目的での研究が政府内部から暴かれる可能性があります。これだけは断固阻止しなくては我が国に致命的信用ダメージを与えかねません。
逆に滅菌作戦を承認した場合はどうなりますか。
はい、自然災害を装いますので、やはり対応の不手際の野党追及は避けられません。ただし奇病研究について発覚することはないでしょう。もし万が一奇病の軍事的研究が世界に発覚したら、我が国は アジア地域でのイニシアチブを完全に創出します。
他国の援助を受ける政党は一大キャンペーンを張るな、売国どめ。そうなれば野党の政権奪取は必至だよ。日本は宣戦布告なくして占領されるぞ。
シミュレートの結果では第2党第3党が連立した場合、与野党の勢力は完全に反転します。国際世論は我が国を一斉に非難。国連に対し NBC 兵器開発疑惑の査察を要求するでしょう。近隣国は政府主導でバッシングキャンペーンを展開。高支持率を背景に対日外交を強硬路線に転換します。
Putting all that into this kind of perspective, I guess I can understand the problems this would cause, but still.
我が国は政治的焦土と化すでしょ
う。国際信用はペンペン草一本残らんということかね。くさ。つまりひなみ沢地区と周辺自治体の数十万人だけの問題では済まんということだな。
Apparently not.
しかし全てを闇に葬るための犠牲が2000人とは多すぎる。
日本国内において生物兵器研究が行われていたことが露呈することだけは避けなければなりません。
私はどうやら大戦の亡霊の尻を吹く羽目になりそうですね。
Excellent way of putting it.
滅菌作戦は計画通りに隠密で実行できるのかね。滅菌作戦が発覚すれば奇病研究以上の大スキャンダルになるぞ。
はい、ご安心ください。それにつきましては自衛隊内の機密保持に特化した専門部隊が当たります。このような事態を想定し研究と訓練を重ねた部隊です。万一の失敗はありえません。
都市沈黙戦という言葉は初めて聞きましたが、これはガスによる虐殺のことですね。自衛隊にガス戦を習熟した部隊があったとは驚きました。
ガス防護を知るにはガス戦を知らなければなりません。ガス虐殺に備えるにはガス虐殺を知らねばなりません。装備実験隊は日本国が受ける可能性のある全ての攻撃に対し日夜研究を重ねています。
He let out a small sigh. He couldn't see the line between ethical and unethical. I don't think there's anything ethical about any of this, no matter how you slice it. It's just being forced to choose between one shitty decision or another. Can any research be justified by the excuse of preparing against hostilities? But that's also what preparation was all about. Some evils must be accepted as necessary. The Area Institute was one such evil.
明かせぬ研究を葬るために明かせぬ方法を取るか。罪悪感の伴う任務だが、隊員から事実が漏れ出すことはないのかね。
ありえません。隊員は第一空挺から精鋭を選抜し、さらに高い忠誠心を持つ者のみで構成しております。実戦はこれが初めてになりますが、練度は極めて高く。
まさに暗殺の専門部隊ですね。
総理、どうか緊急マニュアル第34号の執行にご決裁をお願い。
防衛庁長官、この作戦は必ず成功しますか。事件が大騒ぎになる前に食い止められますか。いえ、犠牲者を最小限に抑えられますか。
はい、総理。すでに予備命令を発し作戦準備に入っております。ご決裁がいただければ直ちに出動して作戦に入ります。
私には人口2000人を虐殺する命令など下せません。ですが内閣総理大臣として犠牲者を最小に抑える義務もあります。
胸中をお察しします。
長官、どうか犠牲者が一番少なくて済む方法を選択してください。2000人がどうしても治療できないなら、不必要な犠牲者が出ないよう迅速な対応をお願いいたします。
はい、ご決裁を 感謝いたします。必ずや朗報をお持ちいたします。
2000人の犠牲が朗報と呼べるならですがね。奥野君、東京の皆さんに近日中にお会いできる席を設けてください。今回の件について釈明を直接聞かせていただきたいと思います。
わかりました。
ところで、その問題の研究所長の入江氏は逮捕しましたか？
いえ、服毒自殺とのことです。研究の終了が自身の人生を否定されたものと悲観しての発作的犯行と思われていますが、何が目的だったやら。
彼を凶器に駆り立てた理由は永遠に闇の中ということですか。
The execution of Emergency Man 34 is approved. June 23rd, 1983. Prime Minister, Director General Defense Agency.
皆さん、輸送の都合で荷物を持つことはできません。手荷物は禁じます。繰り返します。手荷物は禁じます。現金、通帳、印鑑の類だけを携帯してください。混乱防止のため車両避難は禁じています。
It was the middle of the night, and yet countless villagers were out and about. Some of them were locking their doors, some of them were watering their plants, and some of them were piling up food in their dogs' dinner bowls. Small children were crying in fear. Members of the town council were yelling angrily while counting up the villagers. Reportedly, the village had been cut off from the rest of the world after volcanic gas gushed out of the mountains. The number of policemen and military units in the village, added to the strong smell of sulfur in the air, dispelled any doubts the villagers might have had. The more religious among the elderly were convinced that this was the curse of Rika Farud, who had passed away the day before. They were certain that Orishiro-sama was enraged and that the door to hell had been opened. Soldiers wearing gas masks guided the villagers to the evacuation center.
なんで兵隊さんは災害なのに鉄砲を持ってきたらしゃ。
皆さんが避難した後の家屋を守るためです。また災害に便乗して商店を襲撃するボートに対してです。
南沢にそんな輩はおらんのじゃ。
第一小隊避難誘導順調。了解。一個分隊を応援に向かわせます。
兵隊さん、じいさまの位牌を持ってんじゃならんがね。
位牌は構いません。急いでください。町会の方は天候を怠らないように。歩行困難な方は申し出てください。隊員が補助します。
おお、リカちゃまが殺されたからお社様がお怒りになったのじゃ。
お社様、お社様、お社様、どうか怒りをお鎮めください。
防災訓練通りに避難しちゃり。班長は天候終わったら町会役員に連絡せんかいで。
鬼が淵から正気が溢れ出したね。
Are you trying to make me miserable? Stop drawing this shit out.
お社様はお怒りだね。
こんなに大勢いるんじゃん。助かる方法なんかなかとよ。村で死なせてくれな。
Well, you're gonna get your wish.
大丈夫です。輸送ヘリとボーガス仕様のバスが回されます。必ず助かりますから。
みんな、エリン署へ集まれ。
I couldn't live with myself if I had to take part in an operation like this. Jesus Christ.
4丁目は違うだろう。郵便局裏の公民館だぞ。
皆さん、防災訓練と同じです。落ち着いて災害時避難場所に集合してください。団体行動をお願いします。一人の乱れが全体の足を引きます。どうか団体行動を。家には必ず戻れます。
The villagers couldn't see the expressions under the soldiers' gas masks. They wondered what kind of expressions they were hiding under there. The soldiers were, of course, lying to the villagers, knowing that they would never return to their homes again. One such trooper cried under his mask, but the villagers never saw his tears.
引き返してください。車両での避難は禁止されています。この先はガス流で寸断されており危険です。あんたにも硫黄の匂いがわかるでしょう。
Some people tried to leave in their cars so as to take large items with them. However, the quarantine unit had sealed off all roads leading outside. The gas masks of the troopers and the smell of the sulfur persuaded them to return and obey their instructions. Some of them tried to contact Okinomiya, but their phones would not connect. The lines were busy, no matter how much they tried. They simply assumed that the phone lines were overwhelmed because of the disaster. Some of the villagers had access to radios. They tried to figure out what the situation was like outside, but all they could hear over the radio was loud static. It was the same with the television. They couldn't contact anyone outside the village, so they really were totally isolated. And so, they had nothing to rely on but the instructions of the police and the military. They were all like moths heading towards a light, never doubting that they would be safe there. Moths to a flame. One old war veteran listened to the noise from the radio and muttered,
アメさんの妨害電波食らった時もこんな音がしたんね。
As it turned out, he was absolutely correct. However, he turned off the radio when his son urged him to evacuate. The villagers had all gathered at their evacuation points. Some of them were at the school, and some were at the community center. They were to stay in the building until the evacuation vehicles arrived. The soldiers told them to stay inside so they could keep track of the number of evacuees.
万一のガス流に備えて窓は全て閉めてください。念のため窓ガラスはテープで目張りします。申し訳ございませんがご協力をお願いいたします。よし来た。若いのは率先して手伝え。
People started to seal up all the windows and vents with the duct tape that was handed to them. They completely sealed every opening, even as they heard the disquieting conversation of the soldiers. It was long past 3 a.m., but everyone was wide awake with fear. They were having an extremely long night. Coincidentally, the end of their nights had almost arrived. Night.
全部お社様のたたりないしゃ。リカちゃま、リカちゃま、お社様、
やっぱりフルテ神社の鬼隠しはお社様の大怒りの詐欺ぶれだったんだ。
あの日フルテ神社は鬼の国に飲み込まれたんよ。 リカちゃまは鬼たちに腹渡を食らわれたんじゃ。
They all started saying that the gas disaster was caused by the curse of Orishiro-sama. And Rika's death and the mysterious disappearance of her friends and the two detectives were also the result of the curse. People started talking about being demoned away. They had no idea that Keiichi and his friends' short battle sealed their fate for that night. The more religious villagers had become convinced that the children and the detectives went missing because they volunteered to become a sacrifice to calm Oishiro-sama's anger after Rika's death. They didn't know the truth. They couldn't know. No one realized that Keiichi and his friends' efforts had all been in vain. Indeed, in Hinamizawa, everything that happens is the will of Oishiro-sama. Why did it have to be that way? Before the series of mysterious deaths occurred, no one really used the term the curse of Orishiro-sama that frequently. In other words, Who set them up? People in this village were set up to believe that the curse of Orishiro-sama happens every year. They really are just too superstitious.
サンサ、全小隊が点呼を終了しました。遅れていた自主避難者もさっき最後の家族が合流したようです。全員揃いました。
そう。いよいよね。
I'm putting all my strength into my middle finger for this one.
お社様のたたりが現実となる。お社様の生まれ変わりである古出理香を綿流しにするという冒涜によってお社様の怒りが村に下される。それでこの5年間の連続したたたりは本当の神罰に昇格される。もう誰にも事件なんて呼ばせない。これは荒ぶる神の怒りなのだから。始めなさい。
中隊長より全隊員へ、彼らのために1分間の黙祷を捧げよう。サンサ、1分だけご許可を。
お好きになさい。
Takano gave him a disparaging laugh. The company commander crossed his heart and began to speak.
天に召します我らの父よ、罪なき彼らをどうかお導きください。彼らの尊き犠牲がそれ以上の犠牲を防ぐことをどうか報いてください。そして願わくば罪深き我らをお許しください。我らが今日ここにあることをお許しください。
The company commander isn't Christian. In fact, he doesn't follow any religion. However, he prayed because he felt the need to ask someone for forgiveness. He wasn't even sure if he was saying it correctly, but he still prayed to God. He asked forgiveness for committing his sin and continued to pray. Takano was speaking in a soft voice. She was talking to herself.
神がいつ降臨されるのかは誰も知らない。それは例えるなら、泥棒がいつ訪れるのかわからないように。だから予期せずしてその時を迎えて、不信心であったことに歯ぎしりすることがないよう、常に目を覚ましていなさい。
This is the same as that passage from one of those tips.
エセ預言者たちは神の降臨を声高に叫ぶであろうが、それに惑わされてはなりませんか。
One man heard her murmurs.
マタイの福音書ですね。
そうなの？祖父の好きだった言葉よ。
Grandfather.
報われる日がいつ訪れるかわからないから、常に勤勉であれって言葉だと思っていたけど。
今日が報われる日なのですか？
そうよ。あなたにはわからないでしょうけどね。
失礼ながら、主の降臨は慈悲深いものであるべきだと信じています。このような日にそれを例えられることは冒涜かと思います。
He was trying to tell her that using that verse of the Bible was inappropriate for the occasion. However, Takano simply laughed as though she had heard something very funny.
ごめんなさいね。あなたは神に試されなさい。私は今日を境に試す側となるのよ。
以上で黙祷を終了する。
And with the end of the silence,
全小隊、滅菌を開始せよ。
The order was given in as hollow and reluctant a manner as an order can possibly be.
今こそ私の理想はすべて完成した。文字通りの理想郷がここにはある。ここでは私は神で、私のたたりは永遠に刻まれ、語り継がれるのだ。
People were packed into the classroom. They were afraid. The troopers closed the door of the classroom. The people inside had no idea why they were doing that. However, they didn't suspect anything at all. One old man walked up to the door to open it, because with it closed, it was far too hot inside the room. But he collapsed all of a sudden. His wife tried to walk over to help him up, but she also collapsed all of a sudden. Then, other people also started collapsing inside the room. It really was a very odd sight. What would make for a good example? It would be pretty amusing if they were dominoes. However, they're human beings. People sitting by the window watched this strange event happen before their eyes. They opened those eyes wider to try and understand what was going on.
ダム戦争をきっかけに長き眠りからよみがえった荒ぶる神が不信心なる者を綿流しの聖夜の旅にたたりを下してゆく。その一年一年の積み重ねが神の復活、お社様の意向の復活、たたりを恐れるという原始的恐怖への回帰。
The door creaked open slightly, and someone on the other side threw 3 spray canisters into the room. More people started to collapse, even those at the window. This wasn't something that was happening only in one room. It was happening in all the other rooms too. It was happening in all the evacuation centers. People's dreams, their hopes, and their futures were taken away so quickly and easily.
そして誰もがお社様のたたりを疑わなくなり、完全に復活した我は古きムクロの腹を内より破りて、今こそこの世によみがえる。お社様の怒りに触れるとき、地獄の釜が開きて正気があふれ出し、人々は逃げることもかなわず、ことごとく生き絶えるなり。その最後の審判が、たたりが、こうして実現した。
There was a commotion in the reception room by the principal's office. Someone had figured out what was going on, broke the seal off the window, and escaped outside. Other people tried to remove the seal on their windows too, but they collapsed in a matter of seconds.
あなたは死んだら何が残る？身は腐り、焼かれ、骨は砕かれ砂になる。大地の肥やしになる以上の何が残せるの？
応接室で脱走発生。4名が窓から脱出。発砲許可。撃て撃て撃て撃て撃て撃て。
The soldiers shot the people who tried to escape in the back. The sound of the gunshots echoed in the silence. It was a noise filled with cruelty. They helplessly fell down to the ground. Their deaths were so pitiful compared to the silent deaths of those before them. The residential police officer was one of the escapees. He tried to shoot back at them with his own gun. His shots could be heard throughout the building. The soldiers ducked in the shadows upon hearing the noise. The officer seized his chance and ran towards the gate, but that was just a waste of time. Not only is the range of the automatic weapons they were using longer than the length of the schoolyard, but as trained professionals, it would be nothing for them to shoot from that distance. The villagers had no choice. Either they'd die from the gas without realizing what was happening, or they'd find out about the mission and be killed.
どうした？応答しろ！
脱走者全員の逃亡阻止。受精は駐在警官が反撃したものです。
射殺隊を回収しろ。
一般犠牲者と一緒にしないよう注意せよ。
The soldiers walked over to the 4 fallen bodies. They needed to make sure that they were all dead, not just injured.
私は残した。名を残した。偉業を残した。たたりを残した。私の存在は、この長く封鎖されるこの土地で神格化されるだろう。そして、近隣の町にて今日のたたりを逃れた者たちは、たたりを恐れ、その恐怖を人々に語り継ぐだろう。人間の群れの記憶が私を超越した存在へ昇華させるのだ。
第一小隊より本部、営林署の滅菌を終了。脱走者4名は射殺。
第二小隊より本部、作戦終了。
脱走者なし。
第三小隊より本部、脱走者10名以上。現在相当中。制圧は時間の問題。
第4小隊より本部、滅菌終了。脱走者なし。
第3小隊より本部、脱走者13名全員の射殺を確認。全員の滅菌を終了。
了解。機密保持部隊の全小隊は確認を厳重に行われたし。
Takano was laughing to herself inside of the van. She didn't physically see all those people dying silently, but she saw it anyway. She saw countless people dying without even noticing it. She saw it all in her mind. Takano waved her arms in the air. No one was watching her, but no one would understand what she was doing even if they were. She was waving her baton. Takano was pretending that she was the conductor of this silent funeral march.
サンサ、非常事態策の完全終了を確認。通信妨害を終了しますが、よろしいですか？
ええ、いいわよ。
施設処理部隊より定時連絡。機密搬出と溶接封鎖を完了。現在注水中。
交通封鎖部隊より定時連絡。封鎖線は異常なし。
通信工作部隊より定時連絡。通信妨害を終了。電話施設の現状復帰を開始。
Takano was paying no attention to those reports. She continued to sing the melody of an orchestra. One operator spoke to her.
ご機嫌ですね。
ええ、最高に気分がいい夜よ。あなたには聞こえないでしょうね。この新しい神を称える賛歌が。
賛歌であり。
Takano laughed loudly, spreading her arms wide.
ええ、そうよ。称える歌。神のいなかったこの地に新しい神が誕生した瞬間を称える賛歌よ。このひなみ沢には神などいなかった。お社様という名が残るだけ。神がかつて存在した痕跡が残るだけのただの古ぼけた土地だった。その地に私は再び神を取り戻させたの。どういうことかわかる？わからないでしょうね。
I need to commit you to a fucking insane asylum.
今の世界にたたる神が何人いる？人が試すことに耐えられる神が何人いる？一人もいやしない。それを私がたたった。
Takano laughed as if she was the only one who could comprehend what she was saying. None of the operators inside the car could comprehend her laughter. Takano was satisfied to know that.
たたりなきは神にあらず。たたるゆえに恐れられ、恐れられるゆえに崇められる。それこそが神の真実。神が信仰を生み出すのではなく、信仰が神を生み出すのなら、でも太古の神々はたたったのよ。では神のたたりとは何なのか。それこそが真の神の証だった。たたらない神など人間に見下された神でしかないのよ。神の宿らぬ抜け殻の土地に神が確かに存在した痕跡を見た私は思ったわ。これは天の啓示だと。ダム戦争が終わるまで明治から100年にもわたり、ひなみ沢は神を失ってきた。それを私がよみがえらせろという神の啓示だと私は思ったわ。そして天は私にありとあらゆる力を貸してくれた。天が与えたわずかの偶然が積もり、芽生えたたたりの芽を私が育てた。育まれたたたりは今や結実し、そうよ、わかる？つまりは今宵は収穫祭。お社様の伝説に刻まれた最後の神のたたりの日。この日が訪れたからこそ、お社様の存在は今こそ絶対となる。あなたたちは今は分からなくてもやがて知る。私が成した偉業がどれほどのものか、どれだけ長く語り継がれるか。神はたたる。そのたたりを私は起こす。今こそ我はお社様のたたりなり。我をあがめよ、たたえよ、そして恐れよ。我が紡ぐはたたりにあらず、我が紡ぐは歴史なり。歴史はたたりを語り、我が存在を永劫に語り伝えるであろう。我こそはたたりなり。肉でできた身を超越せし者なり。この今こそ我は永遠を得たり。我が身を呪えよ人間たち。身が朽ちれば後には何も残せぬ無力さを呪い、そして我が偉大さを知るがいい。我こそはお社様なり。今こそ神の領域に至ったものなり。我は肉体が滅びようとも永遠にこの地で語り継がれるのだ。我はお社様。我こそはお社様のたたり。我をあがめよ、たたえよ、そして恐れよ。我が紡ぐはたたりにあらず、死にあらず。我が紡ぐは歴史なり。歴史はたたりを語り、我が存在を永劫に語り伝えるであろう。我こそはたたりなり。肉でできた身を超越せし者なり。この身がたとえ朽ち果てようとも、我が紡ぎし歴史は永遠に残り続けるであろう。今こそ我は永遠を得たり。我が身を呪えよ人間たち。 磨く散れば後には何も残せぬ無力さを呪い悔やみ恐れるがいい。そして我が偉大さを知るがいい。我こそはお社様なり、今こそ神の領域に至ったものなり。我は肉体が滅びようとも永遠にこの地で語り継がれて永遠の生を受けるのだ。
New tips unlocked. This fragment's end. Scenario jump mode has been unlocked. Tips reading room has been unlocked. You can now read the tips you've obtained so far. To view them, select Extra on the title menu, then pick the Read All Tips option. Staff room has been unlocked. This is a thank you message for purchasing the game. Okay. I knew there had to be I knew that there was a dark mind hidden behind that face of Takano's for the longest time, but holy fucking shit. I had no idea that behind that face was this big of a stark raving mad lunatic. That's all I really have to say on that. So, I guess we got a tip and a staff room thing to go through, and I guess if I have time, I'll also throw in that one little choice towards the beginning of this chapter that I didn't make, and let fate play out. But anyway, let's get through this. So what's this tip? This fragment's end. I guess Rika finally managed to assemble all the pieces to her puzzle. But we don't know yet if her memories will pass on to her next life. Rika always loses the memory of her death. I don't know if she can retain the memories of what she's discovered. What did you think? Did you have fun? Do I sound like I'm having fun to you? Once you find out the answers, collecting them isn't so fun anymore. You don't agree? I see. You still might find something different by examining some old fragments. After all, the time we have here is endless. We have to find something to play with, because there's nothing to do here. For me, playing with these fragments stops being fun when I find out what's inside. But if you can tell me how to have fun with them even so, that makes you pretty smart. What? You want to know what I play with? I don't play. I'm just killing time. I like to imagine what Rika could have done in order to achieve the future she hopes for. I like to imagine a world that would have been happy for all of them. You found out how these worlds are set up by looking at the previous ones, right? Who's talking to me? Not Hanyu. I like to analyze and what would need to change in order for Rika to win against Takano. You want to see what's on my mind? Too bad. I'm not showing that to you. In that world, Rika and her friends survived their struggle and broke through the fate of June 1983. It's just my imagination. It's not for me to share with you. I'm sure the world that Rika is about to create is better than anything in my imagination. Even if she's stuck on June 19th in 1983. I'm sure this now ended world will remain one of Rika's brightest fragments either way. No matter how much she struggles, if she actually overcomes her fate, it'll be the most brilliant fragment of her story. I'm sure the life Rika lives makes for a better story than my boring imagination. You wanna know what happened to Rika? I already know. She made a decision to redo her life once again with Hanyu. She's trying to live her life with all her might. That's what she learned from this world. Her next life has already begun. I do wonder what that life is like. I'm going there now to check. Do you want to come with me? As if you even need to ask. Okay, so I guess that was just basically a glorified teaser for Chapter 8. Okay, next up, staff room. Hi, this is Ch.7. Hi, this is Neosekken. I hate you. You make everybody suffer. Thank you for playing Higurashi When They Cry Kai, Chapter 7, Minagoroshi. This time around, the scenario was almost like their answer page in a book of riddles. Or maybe the scenario was like a side dish we enjoyed alongside all the scenarios up to now. You can take it however you like. I just hope you enjoyed it. I was enjoying it until everybody died. Again! I was very nervous about releasing this scenario, because the mystery is only good when it's still a mystery. This scenario marks the end of that mystery. To be honest, I didn't want to release this chapter for a while. However, way too many similar stories are being published with no answers at all. A book of riddles means nothing if there's no answer page in the back. Coming up with an answer when you have no way to see if it's right or not is a little sad, I think. If there are no answers, you can't get any joy out of reading a book of riddles. So I take it then that you're not a fan of the kind of mysteries that leaves riddles for the ages, right? I regret to see that there are way too many stories out there that don't offer this kind of joy. I don't know. I think that there are some stories out there that leave unquestioned answers that honestly help enhance the quality of the overall story. Unlike if you were to get all the answers for what everything was, then it just takes away the mystery behind it all, the wonder of it. That's why I decided to release something that you can compare your answer to for this series. Since this world has a rather irregular presentation, there may not have been many people who reached what might be called the right answer. But it's not really about whether your answer was right or wrong. It's much more about how many questions you raised when reading the story, and how many answers you were able to find. Thank you all very much for the solutions you sent me. They were all wonderful theories, and some were thought out so much more than the actual story that I frequently thought about making them the right answer. Wry laugh. Also, your support has given me courage to finish writing the 7th chapter of this series. Thank you very much for supporting Higurashi. Finally, I would like to apologize about how I portrayed the Child Consultation Center. Was it not accurate to real life? What a surprise. You're not above even lying about institutions like these. Not only are you sadistic, you are a slanderer, if that's even a word. I'm being sarcastic, if in case anyone is confused. I don't actually hate this guy. Sort of. I don't know what it was like in 1983, but child consultation centers are not mean places like I depicted in my story. I made the characters look so unfeeling, but in reality, the government today is the #1 hero for us civilians. In fact, those involved with child welfare and youth education are all extremely passionate and selflessly devoted people. I'm sorry for giving them such a negative image in this chapter. The next chapter, Matsuri Bayashi, is going to be the last one of the series. If you ignore the console arcs. I'm overwhelmed by the pressure of writing the last chapter of Higurashi When They Cry, which turned out to be such a long story. I hope you'll continue your kind support. Thank you all very much. 07's expansion. Yukushi 07. Yeah, I'll give you support, even though you keep toying with my emotions like a real bastard. I think it's about time we finally see what happens when I choose this other option right here at the bottom. I did nothing and watched the events unfold. I thought about telling Keiichi to give the doll to Mion, but I stayed quiet because I wanted to believe in him. When we were in the same situation as in a previous life, Keiichi gave the doll to Reina. Mion was deeply hurt by that, and the tragedy began shortly after that. If I didn't do anything and just watched him now, things were going to end up the same way. But I'm sure that Keiichi deeply regretted the fact that he didn't give the doll to Mion in that previous world. And while I was aware he didn't have any memories from that world, I was hoping that his heart vaguely remembered that strong emotion. I challenged him, without telling him anything. Keiichi is contemplating whether he should give the doll to Mion or Reina. He finally opens his mouth.
ミオン、俺が持ってると変な趣味なら、こりゃ誰が持ってりゃ丸く収まるってんだ？ん？
そんなことは知らないよ。まあお人形なんて男の子の持つものじゃないよねって言っただけだしさ。
ほう。じゃあお前が持てば万事解決じゃないか。ほれ。
He's given it to her anyway? Keiichi tossed the doll to Mion as if passing her a basketball. As if forcing her to carry his bag or something. No, this has got to end badly somehow. Let me keep moving. As if forcing her to carry his bag or something. Mion's face quickly turned red. Feeling shy, Keiichi turned away from her. That was amazing. Keiichi just made a miracle happen again. It's not letting me skip, so this has got to be new. He did it without any memory of his previous life. It was exactly the same situation as in the previous world, but he made a totally different decision.
Keiichi. Rika, 確率的なものかもしれないのですよ。
A strong will is directly related to my fate. If his will to give the doll to Reina was weak, this might have been a result of that. But I don't feel it was just a coincidence. I believe that Keiichi remembers something in his heart, and because of that, he made some progress. Mion, having turned red, insisted that the cute doll would be a much better fit for Reina. Her attitude made it clear that she really wanted the doll, but couldn't be honest about it.
だからさ、おじさん、こういう可愛いお人形はさ、ちゃんとした可愛い女の子に渡した方が似合うと思うんだよね。私みたいなアウトドア系に渡してもほら、人形の方がかわいそうというか。
欲しいくせに顔に書いてあるじゃねえかよ。
違う書いてなんかないよ嘘つき意地悪
Mion shook her head with an embarrassed look, pretending she wasn't interested in the doll. Everyone here knew that she wanted it. We all looked at Mion with big smiles on our faces.
おいおい、別に女の子じゃないと人形は渡せないとか、そういう考え方じゃねえぞ。こいつは俺と今日の部活で熱い睨み合いをしてくれた親友への贈り物なんだぜ。
そうなの？ケイちゃんは男の子の友達にも人形を渡すわけ？
まあ確かに選べる範囲があるならわざわざ人形は選ばねえな。でもよ、男の世界じゃ相手に悪意がない限り贈り物は拒まねえぜ。相手の気持ちなんだからよ。変に断られるとかえって男気がないよな。
じゃあ女の子でなくても人形を受け取ってもいいんだ。
Everyone thought Mion's reaction was hilarious. Reina couldn't stop chuckling. Stoko and I burst out laughing too. Mion, having realized she was being laughed at, got even more embarrassed.
男が仲間に送ったもんだぜ。大事にしなかったら承知しないぞ。
おじさんがこの人形が欲しいからもらうんじゃないよ。ケイちゃんが仲間に送るって言ったからケイちゃんの顔を立てるために受け取るんだからね。
Oh, wait a minute, we got a skip choice right here.
もう覚えてなよ。
New tips unlocked good times with our Shirasama. Okay, wait a minute. Did I see this tip before? No, wait. I think I did. Yeah, I'm skipping right through it. Okay, I wonder how this is supposed to affect anything. So, you know what? I'm gonna just keep going on ahead until I see something new. So it turns out that this alternate choice did absolutely nothing to the story whatsoever. It was an entirely meaningless choice. I guess that does explain why the beginning didn't offer me the option to highlight wrong or incorrect choices in the beginning as a different color, because, well, first choice, well, the choice didn't really matter anyway, and the second choice that occurred towards the tail end of the story, well, I wasn't even given the option to choose anything anyway, so that was also a pointless choice. So, I'm just sitting here now in retrospect wondering, if neither of these two choices really mattered in the end, why did they bother putting them in there? Why not just have it play out like a straight up static novel through and through, or kinetic novel? Excuse me, I couldn't remember the name for a second. But I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter all that much, because that means. Because, well, it means that there's less ground for me to cover this time around. Anywho, Chapter 7. I really don't have much to say, to tell you the truth, despite all the big revelations and crazy events that happened in this chapter, because, as I said twice before already, in some of the earlier episodes, basically all my major theories about what was going on and a lot of the questions that I posed throughout the whole series up until this point were basically answered. And save for one or two little things, I was right about virtually everything. So there's really not much for me to talk about on that front. I mean, there's still a few lingering questions that we gotta answer, which I'm assuming will be answered in Chapter 8, like who this Ifumi Takano is, the exact truth behind Irie's suicide, and maybe why Takano seems to harbor a desire to enact divine punishment on Hinamizawa like she does. Besides what we've seen here, with her apparently having a massive god complex. But yeah, again, beyond those things, which I'm assuming is going to get answered in the final chapter at some point or another, there's really nothing for me to discuss here other than just the fact that I hope that everybody will get a happy ending in Chapter 8 after everything that they've all been through. But I've already voiced that hope earlier too, so I guess it just now begs the question, why am I even talking right now if I got literally nothing meaningful to say? I honestly have no idea. So maybe I should just go ahead and end things here and, well, see about getting Chapter 8 set up, and then at some point when I feel ready to, start my Let's Play on Chapter 8 and get an episode recorded for that. So, for those of you who have made it all the way to the end here, I hope you enjoyed this final episode of Chapter 7 of Higurashi When They Cry Kai. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Maybe I will see you all for Chapter 8 if you plan on moving on to that next time. If not, that's fine too. Either way, I wish you all a pleasant day and take care.